So I've heard it said that you'll find more genuine examples of love and loss at an airport than you will at any church altar, and I believe this to be true. I was set to tell Pam how I felt about her, that I loved her. As I took her to the airport, she was going home for a couple weeks, but I chickened out at the last minute. Although I told myself that I would do it when she came back, when I picked her up, although I would never get the chance. I met Pam, I was in my 20s, it was the early 90s, running a church volleyball group. She was from Montana, she was a nanny. Beautiful, short, and she had that, she was short, but she had that, sandy blonde hair, and it was early 90s, but it was still close enough to the 80s that there was like 5 inches of hair at the end. So, but the most, thing that I liked the most about Pam was her smile and her spirit. We would follow, Pam just made us do everything and everything. We followed her everywhere. Pam had us walking through the Poconos with a map, because this was before cell phones and GPS. We had them walking through the Poconos with a map, trying to find a train trestle where we were going to meet some shady guys to do bungee jumping. And this was all Pam's idea. And I had just no intention of doing it. I was just helping Pam get to do her goal. But when she looked at me and said, "You have to do this with me," the next thing I knew, I was plummeting to what I thought was my death. And as I'm looking through my feet at the sky, I'm realizing that I'm literally like falling head over heels for this person, and for real. So another thing, I didn't date a lot at that time because I had a bad home situation, and I was kind of embarrassed about my alcoholic mother and my house. And so I didn't bring people to the house, but Pam did not take no for an answer when I said, you really shouldn't come over. She came over anyway. And it was crazy because no judgment, didn't say anything about anything. And I think I learned there, to trust friends and trust, people that you care about, because they'll care about you too. But Pam was not one to settle down. She dated a lot. And I always knew that when Pam had, one relationship went wrong, was when I'd get a call to play tennis at a local court near us. And as we volleyed back and forth, I would take notes as she told me what she didn't like about guys and why things went wrong. And I would also subtly try to tell her, maybe there's a guy in your life that's nice and close to you. So for Pam's 20th birthday, we were going to have a party, but nobody had a place to have the party, so we were going to do it at a hotel. And it was Pam's idea that she and I had to pretend we were married to get the hotel room. And I didn't have the heart to tell her that you don't really have to do that. You just kind of give your money and they'll take your money and you get the room. But, as I stood there, arm in arm, and she was saying babe and honey, and that's when I kind of knew that I had to tell her how I felt. So soon after the party, she was going home to Montana for a few weeks. She hadn't seen her family in about a year. So I took her to the airport, and again, as I said in the beginning, I just chickened out, because one of the best things I do is procrastinate. I thought, well, she's all excited about seeing her family, and I didn't want to lay that heavy weight on her before she went back to Montana. So I said I'd do it when she comes back. Now, again, this was the early 90s, and it was before cell phones, and not everybody had a cell phone, and nobody had a smartphone, and not everybody had an email or a computer. Usually we just communicated through mail or landlines. And maybe a couple days after Pam went back to Montana, we got terrible news that a family friend had offered to take her and her mother and sister in a small plane. Now Pam had declined, citing jet lag, but her mom and sister went, and the plane crashed. And so in 1 minute, she lost her entire family. And she never came back. And we would hear things now and then. Pam was getting married. Pam was having a baby. She named the baby after her mom and her sister. And by then, I had met somebody, and I told Kristen how I felt about her as soon as I knew this time. So there was a lesson learned there. Dear people, no matter how many lessons you learn, there's always more to learn. When that marriage broke up, I felt the need to tell my stories. And I didn't know about story slams. I didn't know about first person arts. So I just wrote it down and put it on Facebook. And I told the story that I told you just now about Pam to a very positive feedback. And one person asked a question that I hadn't thought of before. Did you ever try to look her up on Facebook? I hadn't thought of that. Although now that the seed was planted, I could think of nothing else. But so, and I had to dig deep to even remember her last name. And you know, Facebook's a weird thing, and I typed it in, and like right off the bat, I see Pam's face, and it's the same face, same smile, maybe a little more wrinkles. And because you can take the girl out of the 80s, but you can't take the 80s out of the girl, she had the same body hair. And I promise I didn't do too much Facebook stalking. I just kind of like looked at her page, and I see pictures of maybe her and her husband, and maybe it was an anniversary, and kids and grandkids. But through it all, I see that Pam is happy, and you know, everybody around her is happy. She's come through whatever she went through in defying colors. And I kind of hovered over the, you know, send friend request thing, but at the last minute I backed out, and because I think it's another lesson learned.